G'day everybody there. Wade Northhausen here for Billboard Battalion. Today we're coming to you live from downtown Cayuga in north central Victoria. And our guest, Grant Piper, who we're going to be talking to from the National Rational Energy Network, is coming to you from up at Coolah, which is basically central west New South Wales. So the things we wanted to talk about today are incredibly serious. Grant has been taking part in submissions being made to a Senate committee on the so-called integrity of misinformation and disinformation on climate change. So we might, and it's interesting, Grant, as we were sort of saying, you know, National Farmers Federation are talking about today being Australia's National Day for Agriculture. So we'll touch on that a little bit down the track, mate. But welcome to Billboard Battalion, Grant. We've had a number of meetings with you and us and National Rational Energy Network and all sorts of different things like this. And it's great to catch up today because there's some incredibly important things happening in the field of agriculture here in Australia. Incredibly important things. So we are so pleased that you could give us the time to have a chat today. And last night we were scheduled for 8:30, but you were rushing against the rain, trying to get some crop taken off. So completely understandable.
Yeah, sorry about that. And thanks, Wade and crew, for having me, and also for all the work and effort you put in around the country. I'm glad you're doing it. Not many people can or would. So at least you're waving the flag and pushing these issues loudly, which is something we've all got to start doing. I think it's ridiculous the way things are going. Well,
look, thanks so much, Grant. I mean, you yourself, and I'm pretty well aware of the huge effort that you put in to fight for what you do. You're a beef producer, grain farmer, and you know it's very, very disgusting and disappointing and what have you to find that in many cases some of the biggest battles that we have where we're fighting for farmers is against actually farmer organizations. So you know we see a lot of the likes of the National Farmers Federation and a lot of the state-based bodies. They will fight us every inch of the way to defend the government, to defend the international corporations, and to defend everything that's destroying Australian farmers.
Yeah, there's the peak bodies, as they call them. Yeah, I mean they've lost membership hand over fist the last 20, 30 years, and because they don't support the average farmer or family farmer, and they say they always seem to get into bed with the government policy. They get invited into the tent, and then they come out the door and they start selling the government policy rather than trying to get rid of it altogether, because not even just change it. I mean, a lot of it shouldn't even reach the light of day. It shouldn't even pass go, but they just mumble stuff and they end up trying to sell it to us. And, you know, we don't buy it. We just vote with our feet in our wallet and we leave them. We don't join their bodies anymore. And when they, you know, they don't defend our interests. Yeah, they don't defend the things that really deliver to Australian agriculture. They just keep pushing the whatever's the agenda of the day.
Well, you know, Billboard Battalion here, we've been on the case of the National Farmers Federation for a number of years now, and the state-based bodies. But we've got there's a new, not we, because there's nothing to do with, I'm not a member of this NFF at all, and I certainly wouldn't be unless they actually started to fight for farmers, not sell out farmers, which is exactly what they do. I just was looking here, the website for National Farmers Federation. I've got a post up here. They're talking about the National Agriculture Day, Australia's National Agriculture Day, to celebrate farmers. And I thought, well, let's have a bit of a quick look at what they've said here. National Farmers Federation, we are having a blast celebrating National Agriculture Day. That's great. They're having a blast. That is fantastic. Our president, Hamish McIntyre, who I'm thinking about issuing a missing persons report, because we've been trying to get to talk to Hamish McIntyre now for quite a long time to do an interview with him and say, well, hang on, what about these things here? The National Farmers Federation should be fighting against this, this and this. Anyway, Hamish McIntyre has disappeared off the face of the earth from our view, but here he is. He's popped up in Queensland. So our president, Hamish McIntyre, joined Queensland Farmers Federation for its special Ag Day AU breakfast, where he caught up with President Aaron Keeley and Queensland Minister for Primary Industries, Tony Perrott, while our interim chief executive, Sue McCluskey, attended the Landcare Australia ACT Women in Ag breakfast. So as for the rest of the NFF team in Canberra, there'll be plenty of Aussie-grown beef, meats and veggies on the barbecue. We're loving to see how everybody is celebrating today. Keep the posts coming in. So I just, you're in the thick of a lot of lobbying on behalf of farmers, particularly against the renewable energy catastrophic disaster that it is. But do you think that this is just basically government propaganda? They're trying to tell everybody how dress ag up to look so fantastic, while in the meantime, in Western Victoria here, we've got farmers who are in mortal combat with Transmission Company Victoria and the Victorian government and the VNI West corridor for all these transmission lines, all the windmills and the solar panels. They're trying to destroy farmers everywhere, right across Australia, and huge things that are happening that are disastrous for agriculture. You're fighting in Canberra against a corrupt Senate committee that's trying to work out a way to stop people from talking about anything to do with climate change and telling the truth. So what's your sort of take on this sort of whole thing, where this National Farmers Losers crowd painting this as something fantastic, like it's the old country show or the fair or something, when in fact people are being destroyed by government policies everywhere?
Well, we are. I mean, the pressure, it's relentless. The changes all the time. The imposition of more regulations and requirements on agriculture just keeps you away from doing what you're primarily meant to be doing. And what we find with the farm organisations is they don't lie on our behalf and they don't push back. They generally roll with it and then try and sell it to us. Down in Victoria, it's awful. It's the same up here, though. I mean, we were compulsory acquired for power lines over 2 months ago now for an easement, and the loss of property rights. Again, you never hear anything out of the farmer organisations about the diminution of freehold rights. Yeah. You know, we lost mineral rights back in the 80s in most states, I think. We lost the water rights when they were separated under Anderson and Howard, and now you can't even lock the gate and keep bureaucrats and contractors out when you own that land. It's your freehold land, and the government's going to come in and fine you if you don't open the gate and escort them on. I mean, that's just abhorrent. And say the legislation, South Australian legislation that went up there early this year as well, where, you know, on some, you know, ministers say so, all your rights are discarded in your own home. Even it's not just farming, really. I mean, maybe you know, we're the canaries in the coal mine in the way that we feel imposed upon first, but it's coming for everyone, even in their home. And you say you don't see these peak bodies standing up for you. I mean, yesterday or early this week, I think the Meat and Livestock Australia had their AGM, which is always held inconveniently right in Harvest or somewhere like that. And then Cattle Australia is rallying the troops, supposedly trying to get numbers for a proxy, for their proxy vote to push for a better selection procedure for MLA board members. Now, that was fought over 20 years ago by the Australian Beef Association, and the Beef Association just got rubbished, you know, right out the door and made out to be some sort of a fringe group. And everything they've said has come true. But, you know, no one would listen at the time. And now all of a sudden you've got Cattle Australia pops up and goes, oh, no, we'll come and defend the farmer for you. And it all stems from, you know, they need the money. They need membership money. They need the $5 statutory levy. I mean, I don't know how many viewers you have that aren't farmers or beef cattle or producers, but I'm sure the general public would be surprised to find out that, we have compulsory statutory levy of $5 on every beast that's sold. And that goes to Meat and Livestock Australia and the other people to keep them in a job. I don't know what other industry does that. It's not voluntary, it's compulsory.
Yeah. And look, this is how they fund these bodies, which are just government lackeys. That's all they turn out to be. And this broadcast here, I'll be saying things, Grant, that are my opinions. People are free to decide whether they think it's right or wrong, but these are my opinions. So we see, and for quite a long time now, I've been in this field of lobbying and protesting and so on behalf of farmers. And I can tell you right now, they get people at the top of these organisations who, in my opinion, I've called them professional board jumpers. And I think, number one, they're in it as a career for themselves, just to continually jump from one board to another. And I think that in order to do that, they've got to prove to the government or the powers that be that they're prepared to sell out their members and just push government policy, and therefore they get the nod. And I would bring your attention to, and I talk about this a lot, and we're going to keep pushing this because it stinks as far as I'm concerned. We've got farmers all over Australia, and I think you even did a video about this possibly, I don't know, 18 months ago or something, where renewable infrastructure is being put all over farmland, all over Australia here. And this is at war with so many farmers. This stuff is going to wipe them out of business. Now, the immediate past CEO of the National Farmers Federation, he's Tony Marr. He has just been given the job. He's just resigned from the CEO of NFF, and he's just been given the job as the commissioner in charge of renewable infrastructure. Now, how can he get that job when he's now taken a job where they're trying to destroy farmers? He's supposedly CEO of the NFF, and now he's in charge of destroying farmers. How does that work?
Yeah, well, they get into these jobs and it's just a conveyor belt once they're on it, I think, and they just get shifted on and upwards. And the president of the NFF or ex-president is a wind turbine host, and the two presidents before him, I think, was also a wind turbine host in Queensland. And so they're not neutral. And they push it as saying, oh, this will drought-proof the farm, or this is extra income for the farm. But surely food is more important than, you should be able to make a living on a property growing food and fibre without having to go and get a job off farm or put turbines up or solar panels on your land. I mean, that's just a sign that what you're producing isn't being valued enough as it is. I mean, you should be able to do a good job farming, and you should be able to make a comfortable living off it if you're doing it right. I know there's problems, and but this selling this stuff as a savior to the farming is, in the long run, as you say, it's going to destroy the farms. I mean, most people that are hosts don't stay on their property; they leave, or they're absentee owners. They don't give any consideration to the problems that turbines and solar bring, whether it's contamination or whether it's noise, or just the sheer impact on the local environment and the land that takes it out of production. And if you're getting, many thousands of dollars from turbines, I mean, is your eye seriously stay on the ball of farming, or is it just become a hobby? So it impacts production in lots of ways, and in the long run, that's going to have a detrimental impact on our food supply and our ability to feed people and export overseas. And none of these things are talked about or even acknowledged. And the fact is that, and this is what I keep trying to point out to people, because overall, these things are such inefficient energy producers that you're actually doing more harm to the global environment as well as the local damage than you are if you did nothing. Because you can't have a turbine that only produces 29% of its nameplate capacity, or a solar panel that produces only 19% of its solar capacity, nameplate capacity. And those are the official figures. for Australian solar and wind. So they only work less than 2 days a week. The rest of the time they sit there doing nothing. And to have them sitting there doing nothing, you still need all the power lines and the substations and everything else that goes with it. So, and they've got a short lifespan of only, 2020. They need to repeat churn and consumption of materials, mineral sands mining in Victoria, all that sort of stuff for the transition. That's all due to the need for massive amounts of materials to keep this thing going. And it's just a big churn. It consumes more, it pollutes more. And if you're worried about saving the planet, supposedly, these things are counterproductive. But that never enters the conversation. As soon as you say that, you're a bad person, you're anti-renewables, or you're a climate change denier. And no one ever wants to discuss the technical issues. They just hurl abuse and walk away.
Look, dead set, yes. So you talked about there a minute ago about you're a climate change denier. So that brings us to what we're talking about here. But first of all, you might just give us a bit of a better idea of where you're located and what you're farming there. Just a bit of a brief for people who might be interested. Brent.
Yeah, we as I say, I'm about 25k southeast of Coolah, the town of Coolah, which is sort of between Mudgee and Gunnedah, on the Great Dividing Range. We're at the very western tip of the Hunter Valley, so inland from Newcastle. So one of our properties actually straddles the Great Dividing Range. My family's been around here for 5 generations, since the 1840s, and I went away and did other things and ended up coming back. And I primarily run cattle, family operation, beef cattle, EU accredited. I guess you could call it sort of holistic management. I try and do the rotational grazing thing and try and make that work in accordance with like Alan Savory's teachings, I suppose. I think it's got some shortcomings, but I think there's a lot there going for it. And I don't know. Yeah, we've got a project approved 3k west of our house on the next ridge with 138 250 metre turbines, and there's another project approved 8k north with 185 turbines. Neither have been built yet, but they've both been approved. And with our neighbours in this valley, in the village, we've actually got an appeal going with the Land and the Environment Court that's just begun against the project west of us. We ended up to my eyeball. We're about fed up with it.
Well, we were up in Coolah a few months ago. Billboard Battalion was, and the community up there is very, very divided. They've got rangers over both sides of the town there. They're expecting to put turbines up on all that sort of stuff like that. But just quickly, before we go to the main issue here, the wind turbines, for example, you said about farmers are encouraged to say this is drought-proof your farm. However, just say, for example, you had 6 wind turbines on a block of dirt. When those things are finished, say 25 years, and it comes time to decommission these horrendous-looking things, you might just explain a bit about the cost versus the value of the farm, Grant.
Look, I haven't got the exact figures in front of me. There is a spreadsheet that New South Wales Department of Planning has put out, which estimates the cost. And I think for this size turbines, it's approaching about the 6 megawatt turbine. It's approaching $1 million per turbine, and that's New South Wales government figures. And that's to pull them down and clean them up afterwards and get rid of them to put the land back to what it used to be. Yes, without removing the concrete pad, of course. Yes. They say they'll push a foot of dirt over the top of that and call it done. So there's 2,000 tonne of concrete in the base of each one of these monsters. What was it? And so far, there's no statutory requirement for rehabilitation bonds like there is in mining. The decommissioning legally at the moment is still the responsibility of the landowner. So if one of these companies goes tits up, or at year 21, and they've got no money in the kitty come the end of the day, well, the landowner is still technically illegally responsible. This is denied. This was denied in the Senate inquiry I sat in last week. They just flatly denied that was the case. But at the moment, when you ask the proponents up here, like Tilt, at a public meeting 18 months, 2 years ago, they said the decommissioning is written into the landowner agreement. And I said, well, can we see that? And they said, no, that's commercial in confidence. So it's just basically trust us. Trust us. We've put that into the landowner agreement.
Yep. So, and you know, we've spoken to Ferra, who is another company around North Central Victoria here. They want to do them as well. And I've sort of said to them, so who guarantees that the company's even still going to be there or exist? And they really couldn't. They just said, oh, well, it's written into, but if it's written into a company that goes bankrupt and no longer exists, then that is worthless. And I think that the main indicator here of the concern is that the federal government refuses to underwrite the cost of disposing of this thing. So that tells you everything you need to know right there. And the other thing, of course, is it is very, very probable that the cost of decommissioning these wind turbines is a greater value than the actual price of the land itself. So that's a major big problem. But yeah, and you've probably
either way, I mean, you lose. It erodes your equity in your farm. I mean, your property value has decreased immensely, isn't it? I mean, even if you're not, bankrupted for having to do it. I mean, I think Crookwell 1 wind. I don't like using the term farm, but down near Crookwell. So that was one of the earliest ones put up. It's already stopped working some time ago, and they haven't pulled down those. And they're only small ones. I think they're probably 100 metres or less, but they haven't pulled them down. I think they've turned it into what they call a wind farm museum, believe it or not. So there's just still standing there rusting, and they're going to fall over one day. But no one's gone in there to pull the damn things down and rehabilitate the site. And the same will happen all over the country. And what was the Rainforest Reserves map? I think they mapped something like 33,000, was it 33,000 turbines across the country? So
this brings us to the very committee that you gave evidence to in Melbourne, I think it was, the Senate committee run by a couple of, and I'll say this quite openly, these people are criminals, they are terrorists, they are working against Australia. And that one of these is this Senator Michelle Amanda Raja, and the other freak show who was the supposed president of this committee. So we look at this thing that you gave evidence to, and other than to say the chair and a couple of these committee members were rabid and hostile towards you. I saw some of the footage there. Absolutely, totally against all the rules of a Senate inquiry. These people were filth on steroids, and they just use it as an opportunity to attack. They weren't interested in anything but attacking and trying to destroy people such as yourself. So the comments that we've just made about the wind turbines and how much it costs to get rid of them and et cetera, tell us about this committee, if what they wanted to get over the line, if what they want to achieve, for my understanding, but you'll know better because you were there, is this about passing laws to make it a criminal offence to say anything negative about anything to do with climate change or the renewable energy or anything else? We need to get this very, very clear. This is a crystal clear, must be delivered crystal clear, Grant, so that we get some clear messaging to all Australians and in particular the ag sector, because we need to know exactly what this thing is about.
Yeah, I mean, cynically, I think, the conclusion is already written. They went into it with their conclusion in mind, which is, justifying censoring further any discussion or any dissent that's different to the party line or to the agenda. The only positive I can take out of it is the fact that they're trying to do that means, we are being effective. And, even though we're a bunch of amateurs, most of us trying to do this part-time, we are having an effect, and it is, the population is getting more information than they would otherwise because the government and the bureaucracies tell them nothing. So, yeah, they want an opportunity and a justification to censor us more and to make anyone that speaks out against the transition, against renewables, against climate change, to make it a legal offence in some way. I don't know how they'll do that exactly, but it's absolutely unnecessary. The chair, Wish Wilson, is Green. It was a Greens senator. The deputy chair is Senator Ananda Raja. She's Labor. But yes, they're both very vocal in shutting down anything is said that started to veer off towards criticism of the transition and their role in it. As soon as you got near the facts or wanted to talk truth about your experience, they would stop you and divert in a different direction. Or when I was talking about aerial firefighting, for example, which is my area of expertise, I suppose, and they turned and started talking amongst themselves as if they were ignoring you, not hearing you, and so it was quite rude the way we were treated, and it certainly wasn't in accordance with the little introduction that the chair gives at the beginning of every session, where he tells you that you've got to be respectful and truthful and all these good things. And then once you get into the meat of the inquiry, they say anything and they'll do anything, and they're rude, impolite, and they won't listen to what you have to say, even though it's meant to be an inquiry about misinformation, disinformation. They don't want to hear the truth.
So a bit of the footage that I saw, this Michelle Ananda Raja, okay, and Billboard Battalion has spent a fair bit of time in the last few months in the Senate, in the galleries there, watching these people. And I'll tell you, this horrid thing, this Michelle Ananda Raja, mate, she's a barefaced liar. And I'll tell you, she is absolutely a barefaced liar. She covers up the fact that people have been killed with a lot of the stuff that the government have done. And I'm happy to have her on Billboard Battalion and do an interview with her to prosecute that case and to back up what I'm saying. So tell us, from what I saw, she totally left the reservation and went completely feral and rogue and started to make accusations about your organisation, Grant. So, and I've seen a fair bit of this stuff. That is just off. That is not allowed, to start making accusations about people in their organisation who they're affiliated with, as if you're dealing with the Nazis or something. So you might just give us a bit of an idea on what that was about, because I think this is a major thing that needs to be brought up with this loser, this Wish Wilson, and probably the parliamentary committee, whoever oversees all that stuff.
Yeah, we're responding to that. I believe the ACA has already responded and sent a letter of complaint to them, to the chair. We've got one drafted at the moment that's just going through committee. So we're going to respond formally to that. So I'm not going to mouth off too much now, I suppose, except, but, as I say, they're not interested in the truth. And the way they talk to you and treat you is not in accordance with their own Senate inquiry rules. And as soon as you come up with something or you say something factual from your experience or knowledge that counters what they're trying to get along, they, as you say, they just say the exact opposite. They just make a boilerplate statement and say, "Oh no, that's not true." Like the Senator Ananda Raja said about recycling. "Oh no, I went to a factory in Melbourne and they're recycling 99% of solar panels." Now, you read the statement in Hansard, you don't know what she means by that exactly. There's one factory, I think, that was, almost bankrupt, and there might be another one, but they're only stripping the panels and getting the aluminium and stuff off them. They're not recycling the glass and the silicon and that sort of stuff. I don't know what they're doing with that. The aerial firefighting, I brought up, I said, you're not going to get large aerial tankers amongst these 250-metre turbines, and they'll have to stay away. And the chair just comes out and goes, "That's not true. I've got a letter from the RFS and it isn't an issue." And I said, "Well, can I see the correspondence?" He says, yes, I'll get it to you. So they don't want anything going on the record that might be contrary to their script. Mary Morris from South Australia has been in this fight for 14, 15 years. She lives near Waterloo Wind Farm, and she's had her family has been sleep disturbed due to that, and other people in the area have had the same issues. And she's got proper studies done through South Australian universities and got the data and EPA. And she says this, and then they just ignore that, or they cut her off. I mean, it's evidence, it's truth, it's evidence that they should admit, but they just cut them off and don't listen to it. The panel before us had a couple, a daughter of one of the farmers who said that she'd been bullied because her father was hosting a power line, or was going to host a power line. And now that's not good. But then when Rainforest Reserves were there, Steve Nowakowski declared that he had had a gun pulled on him. But that was glossed over and not dwelt upon. But it was dwelt upon that this young girl, or young lady, had been bullied supposedly by a non-host who was upset at what her father was doing. And that shouldn't occur. But the fault lies for all this division. You mentioned division in the community before. The fault lies with the people who instigated this whole scheme and set it in motion that creates the division in the community. Most country communities, as you would know, are fairly tight-knit. You know, they all get together around the barbecue at the football. They all donate to local charities. They run the local welfare shop or whatever's going on, or the craft shop. I mean, we're a close-knit community normally. But this has caused division. And that division falls on the politicians who brought all this stuff into being and then throw it on the community without their permission and without asking. You know, that's where the blame lies. It doesn't fall on you or me in our local community causing division. It falls upon the people that push this on the community unasked and just walk away and leave the consequences.
So, and as we know, for people such as us, Grant, who have been involved with these politicians and parliaments and committees and God knows what, in so many cases, they are not working for the Australian people and for the best interest of Australia. They're working for foreign, Australia-hating corporations and organisations who have set themselves up to take control of our country and destroy it, like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and the WHO. And the government, they have to create arguments and squabbling between the people here in the country, because if they didn't, then the people in Australia would work out what the politicians are doing, and they'd take them on, because they're now working for foreign hostile corporations. So this is a very, very big problem that we don't seem to hear about from the likes of our National Farmers Federation. Now, these people are paid a lot of money to represent ag, to represent our farmers, and they're hobnobbing around the world. I know last year, David Joe Hinkey, the immediate ex-president, and Tony Marr, the immediate ex-CEO, they ended up over at COP29. So, like, what you're hobnobbing with all the high and mighty, when at the same time the high and mighty are setting up to destroy our farmers here. So, this committee that you gave evidence to, and I want to try and put a very fine point on this, because this involves everyone. Do you think that and I think that there was some use of the word illegal from what I saw. So are they trying to set it up so that as more and more pressure comes on Australia, not only our farmers, but the entire community, and we start to see the WHO introduce lockdowns under the so-called banner of climate change, food restrictions, fuel restrictions, under the heading of climate change, which is completely fraudulent. But do you think that the government at the minute is trying to set it up so they're already ahead of the game to shut people down as more and more pressure comes on the community? The community are going to say, you can get stuffed. We now know it's all bogus. And what you're doing is costing us our lives, our businesses, our jobs, our savings, our money, everything. You think this is to preempt a preemptive strike to shut people down from being able to complain about something when the general population, the penny finally drops. The light bulb finally comes on, and the population.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I fundamentally agree. I mean, there's so many ways you can go about this. But the thing is, you can look in Canada, you can look in the UK, and I can't quote the European area so much, but all this legislation and all these things we're talking about, those countries have done exactly the same thing on roughly the same schedule.
Yep. So
again, it's not just an independent sovereign act here; it's happening in unison around the world.
Yep. Absolutely.
And the climate change. Yeah, I mean, so much hinges on this climate change belief. If you can believe, if climate change is real and it's a threat to humanity, that's what underpins and justifies all their actions. And what you're looking forward to is a life of oppression and austerity, and that's what they seem to want to force on us. And the climate change narrative is the basis for all of that. I mean, you can go into the UN sustainability goals, 17 sustainability goals, but climate change is a key one. I mean, if you can force that on the population and get them to accept that, well, that justifies all these actions under that, which we will never be free. We'll have constant oppression, constant austerity, and our children will live that way as well. If they, so unless we can topple that foundation belief of climate change, none of this stuff's going to go away. I mean, while I applaud the Nationals and the Liberals for dumping net zero, supposedly, that's the headline, as long as they still cling on to this belief in climate change, all the other policies will continue to flow through and the austerity and the oppression will continue. And so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I try and talk to people. I don't try and get them to arc up normally. And so I tend not to aggravate them by talking climate change too much. Plus, you're normally talking to a brick wall anyway. But really, you can't shy away from that subject. And that goes for all the things they try and demonize, whether you're a climate change denier or you're a neo-Nazi or you're a right-wing something or you're a Sky News watcher, which is one I heard. I mean, they try and demonize you and put you in a box. And then people naturally go on the defensive and go, oh, no, I'm not. But when you do that, you're automatically at a disadvantage. I mean, we've got to step forward on that. We can't, when they demonize us, that's often where their weakest argument is. It means they don't have any facts. They just want to demonize you and browbeat you into silence. And so we have to be more assertive. We have to be more, not provocative, but assertive and intransigent when we argue our case and say the climate change narrative is bullshit. It's just a scam from top to bottom. From the Club of Rome in 91 when they said, oh, change is a good thing, we'll be able to pressure the whole world into doing what they're told with climate change.
Yep.
And then you get Al Gore. I mean, the poles haven't melted. I mean, it's a bit of a joke and you laugh it off. It's a cliche, but it's true. Tim Flannery, the dams will never fill. He's wrong. Every prediction, the IPCC prediction, has never come to fruition. The email scandal from East Anglia, where they're trying to, how do we shut down this, the negative debate? There's so much evidence in public space out there that really anyone that looks at it with open eyes can't genuinely believe the climate change thing. It's just a scam. It's just a scam from top to bottom. And yes, it enables this whole renewables transition push. It enables shoveling heaps of money to these foreign corporations to come in and walk all over us, aided and abetted by the government. And this gets back to sovereignty. I mean, I'm raving on a bit here, but this is a key thing as well. What we want is sovereignty. We want the Australian Parliament, Australian bureaucracy to make decisions for the best thing for Australians, not for foreign corporations, not for foreign bodies, unelected bodies. I mean, surely as Australians, we can all unite around this idea that we want sovereignty and independence. We make decisions for us. We don't want other people imposing decisions on us. And the thing is, though, we're not alone because the farmers in the UK are under pressure as well. And all these Western countries, we're all under the same pressure and it all stems from the same source. So we're not alone. We want sovereignty. We want each nation state to look after itself. but we are united, all the common people, because we're all facing the same oppression. So we've just got to, you know, get together and get on the same page, and try and fight this rubbish.
And I think that's a great what we normally have there.
Yes.
If you can see, the greatest threat to our farmers are our governments.
Yep.
Now, and just in case they miss it, I've got it on the other side too. So, but these are the facts. And I think you made a very good point, and we speak to this a lot, is that as the average Joe Blow starts to look at the climate change hysteria and the fear campaign they're running, and they go, well, hang on a minute. As you said, the polar ice caps, according to Tim Flannery, who's Australia's #1 low-life scumbag, so-called scientist in climate change. He's just a parasite, low life for the highest order, and a barefaced liar. So he said that if we don't fix global warming, I think back in the day it was global warming, this is in the 90s, then by 2000, the polar ice caps will all be melted and, you know, we'll be flooded and all this other. Didn't happen. Now that was 30 odd years ago. Now we get to now. We're supposed to have global boiling, according to the UN. Now we go back to all the farmers are going to be wiped out. Everybody's going to be sick and dying because of climate change. It's every bit of it is premeditated, deliberate, barefaced lies. They know it is. It's a tactic and strategy. But the things they've said are going to happen have never happened, and they're not going to happen. And as more and more of the people wake up to this and go, hang on a minute, wait a minute, and now you're telling me you want to shut down my carbon use, because there never used to be a thing called carbon use. So I can't own a car. I'm not allowed to leave my designated area. I can't buy meat anymore because they tell you that meat's against climate change. I can't buy milk anymore. The dairy industry and the meat industry, we've got to get rid of that. The grains industry too, they've got to get rid of that. And as the people start to work out they're being conned, they're being lied to, and these people here are in the business of putting your family and your life out of business, there's going to be pushback. So that's why they're setting up this crap now to censor and stop people from being able to talk about it or say it. So, so the result of this committee that you were fronting up to, and I believe this Michelle thing made some accusations that, or some sort of question that you are actually representing other organisations or other industries. You might fill us in about that, Grant.
Oh, well, they accused all of us, I guess you say on our side, that we're all being paid off by big oil or somebody to do what we do. I just think they find it unbelievable that we can actually be as effective as we are without having some foundation behind us and some billionaire shoveling us money, which is, well, if you look through all those submissions from the Page Research Centre, from Forbes, from CIS and others, you know, there's plenty of, they follow the money trail back to the Sunrise Foundation, which is based in the US, back to Ken Brooks's Boundless Earth Foundation, back to Homes of Courts Climate 100. Obviously, most people have heard of that. So the big money is on the other side, you know, not on our side, but they try to accuse us of that. They can't believe we're effective. I mean, just because they don't get out of bed unless someone's paying them money doesn't mean that we work to the same principle. You know, they don't do anything unless someone's paying them, it seems. And they also can't understand. Yeah, well, I don't, you know, we've all lost a lot of sleep and time over this. We're trying to run properties, raise families, and do everything normal, and then you're spending all your downtime fighting this relentless surge of rubbish coming out of Macquarie Street in Canberra. And I guess they find it hard to believe that we just do it because we're trying to protect our home and our farms and our business and our family for the future. And I'm hoping we can win, because otherwise our children won't have much of a future. And that's what keeps you going. But I must admit, it's hard to take a lot of positives out of it, because you have a little bit of a win, you think, and then they go and smash you with something else.
And look, that is 100% accurate. I mean, somebody who's been in this caper for 40 years and fighting this stuff, I know they plan on draining people out of money and energy and exhaustion and mental capacity and physical capacity. That's their strategy. It's like a lot of the courts, you know, they'll someone will take a big corporation to court, and the corporation just stretches out for years and years, and the people die of old age in the meantime. So I put it to you that this Michelle Ananda Raja, Labor scumbag senator, what they're trying to do is to put people like yourself and your organisation on the back foot by trying to create some sort of a public hatred of people such as yourself. And we've seen this. They created people, the anti-vaxxers. They create people climate change deniers. They create all those kind of a thing. The latest one, I think, is accusing people of being sovereign citizens. So now, you know, all their specialty, and like this thing I'm talking about and this other creep who was running it, what they do is they try and turn the public against you, because therefore they don't have to argue the case and defend it with data and with facts. They then stoke the fires of discrimination and hatred. That's their key weapon. They don't use facts and truth and honesty. They use hate and discrimination. That's their weapon of war. So we really need to make a thing of that, because I see this all the time. And we're seeing a lot happening in Australia now where, you know, we're seeing Australian Federal Police, ASIO and all these kind of people. They're saying they're putting together a task force against domestic terrorists and against people who unravel social cohesion or some crap like that. Now, that's weaponizing those agencies to go after people like us, people who simply tell the truth and simply want to highlight things for the safety of our communities. And this is what we're about, is the safety of our communities, the integrity of our country, and keeping food supply happening for the Australian people. And they are on the opposite side. And sadly, they've captured all the hierarchy of our police forces, not the rank and file members, but the hierarchy, all the intelligence agencies, and all the most of the media. So they've captured all them, and they don't have to defend themselves with facts and truth and honesty and accountability. They just run a fear and hate campaign against us. That's all they have to do. So, you know.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean, I said this at the beginning of you know, when we decided to start on this route a few years ago now, is that, you know, yeah, we don't have financial power, we don't have political power, we don't have judicial power. All we've got is people power, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, but that's all we have. So we just have to keep speaking out and let people know that it's okay to speak out, and so they're not cowed by the abuse they cop from the other side, whether it comes from officialdom or just the bureaucracy sort of thing. I mean, as you say, they demonize a subject like sovereign citizen or climate change denier or anti-vaxxer, so that everyone, as you say, they're predisposed to discriminate against those people or dismiss those people from the get-go if they're not thinking. But I think the only way we can handle that is to actually engage in those conversations. When someone calls you a climate change denier or what have you, unfortunately, you've got to spend some time to try and give them at least a snippet of evidence or some facts and make them think about it. And going back to what you said before about, you know, Flannery and Gore, and I mentioned them, I mean, people have got to trust their own judgment. I mean, they get through life. Most of our decisions and things we do are made on only partial information. We don't have all the evidence, but you have judgment and you make decisions based on that. And if somebody is lying to you, once might be okay, but if they're wrong, if they're consistently wrong, it's like, it's like the boy who cries wolf. If they're consistently wrong, surely you've got to stop believing them at some point. That's rational. So stop. For all people out there that think, well, we've got this couple of idiots on YouTube or somewhere talking shit and saying climate change isn't real. But look at the people that are telling you that it's real, and how trustworthy are they? How often are they right? They haven't been right once. Every prediction has been wrong. So are you going to make decisions based on people that are always wrong? They've got a track record of being wrong. I'd rather listen to the people who have a track record of being right and learn from them. So we've all got to start questioning things more and thinking for ourselves and trusting what we see and what we hear and what we experience. What they broadcast in the headlines isn't, if that doesn't match your life experience, if it's cheap and reliable and your bill keeps going up, well,
it's not cheap and reliable.
Think about it. And so I don't know. It's a long and tortuous route through the ballot box to get change, but because the country we're in, I mean, that's unfortunately or fortunately, the only access we have, and all these other things that we do: write letters, go see your local member, write to these inquiries, make submissions.
Look, we do have capacity.
Do whatever you can.
We do have capacity, Grant, because when we look at it, a lot of these people who are now making the rules and destroying our lives, they started off as nothing. They started off with just some dope smoking tree hugger hanging onto a tree up in Tasmania somewhere up there on the Franklin River. And now, they are incredibly powerful. So this is simply a matter of we must come together. And when we've got organisations like the National Farmers Federation who are selling us out, they have taken the line. The National Farmers Federation, so they support net zero. They support, getting to net zero. You've got to stop that crap, because they are simply a salesman for the government and for the World Health Organization. That's all they are. And somewhere there'll be a reason why that's happening, whether they're ideologically retarded, totally stupid, whether they're being paid off, whether they're getting special deals to sell out the members and the farmers, or something else. I don't know. I don't have those answers. I'm only making suggestions or possibilities as to what it could be. But the evidence on the ground, the data is they are backing the wrong horse. They're helping to shut down farmer voices so that the multinational corporates can win. That's what's happening here. And that's why I want to interview this. I'm starting to sort of say this loser who's running the National Farmers Federation here, and ask Hamish, what's going on, mate? I know we've had a number of bits of correspondence. Oh, Hamish is a top bloke. He's a great fella. Yeah, I don't think so. The evidence is not supporting that, and I'm wondering why Hamish McIntyre appears to be, I could be wrong, but appears to be so absolutely terrified, frightened to talk to Farmer Wade on Billboard Battalion.
I think he's waiting. They're focus grouping what to do now that the coalition has dumped net zero, and how they're going to frame that. So they haven't got their story straight yet, Wade. And once they get their story straight, they might be happy to speak to you.
Well, I put it to you, and I did a live about this only the other day, Grant, that the coalition has not dumped net zero. They're words that are just crap, because they got it up and going. They kicked it into gear. And now if they actually were dumping net zero, they would be now coming out and publicly saying that the whole net zero climate change scam was invented by, as you rightly said, the Club of Rome as a weapon. It had no foundation in fact, and that they now need to say, these bodies are using this as a strategy to take over full control of our country. And this is why, we're going back to Canberra again this next week, and we'll be there trying to put as much pressure as we can so that this National Environmental Protection Agency bill fails in the Senate. Because if you look at the EPBC Act, the Centre for Disease Control bill, which passed the Senate last sitting, this new National Environmental Protection Agency bill, and also the Biosecurity Act, that gives the World Health Organization, because we've just signed up to the World Health Organization and given them complete power of our country. And I know we've got a few politicians who say, oh, that's not right, Wade, that's not, but yes, it is. And any politician that says that is not right, I'm sorry, you're either telling lies, or you are uninformed, or you don't know, or whatever's going on. But it is absolutely what I just said is the case. So this is why this is so serious, Grant. And I'm really so pleased that you could give us the time to come on and talk about this, because what's happening in this Senate right now, they are creating the framework to build the laws about total censorship over anything to do with climate change that they don't tell you. And as we heard Jacinda Ardern say, the Prime Minister of New Zealand back in COVID, the government is your only source of truth. Well, hell no, and stuff you, because the government are barefaced liars and they are working for foreign people. They do not like us. So we have to push back.
It's an unbelievable situation. We're back. We're a modern 21st century society, supposedly, and we're back to papal decree. I mean, it's a religion. It's faith-based. We had through COVID we had faith-based medicine, and now we've got faith-based energy policy. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, how do you call this a modern educated society? I mean, we're reverting back to the dark ages. And literally and figuratively, that's what's happening. We're going to be deindustrialized further. We're going to have a shortage of power, which we already have with Tomago shutting. And none of these people, none of those senators on that committee, apart from Senators Canavan and Roberts, and none of the farm heads, I won't say leaders, none of them acknowledge that. They just seem to say it's all good and just blissfully keep charging over the cliff. It's unbelievable. But thanks for your time. And all I can say, anyone out there's listening, is just keep on fighting and do whatever you can. Not everyone can take all their time out and do this, but if you can do something, just do whatever fits into your daily life that you think you can do that would help turn the ship around. Well, because it takes all of us.
Absolutely. Get on to your politicians, because ultimately they're the main criminals who are selling us out. So we need to put pressure on them. But anybody, and you don't have to be a farmer to do what I'm saying. Get onto the website National Farmers Federation and ring them up or send them an email, because they need to explain why they won't talk to Farmer Wade from Billboard Battalion. They need to explain why they're selling out our farmers. We got so many people there wanting to help protect farmers. Well, if you live in the middle of Sydney or the middle of Melbourne or Brisbane or Perth, it doesn't matter. Get onto the website, get the phone number for the National Farmers Federation, and put the pressure on them. People say, oh, what can we do to help? Okay, I'm going to say this slowly. This is one of the things you can do to help. Get on to the National Farmers Federation and say, why is it that we're seeing that the president of NFF is selling out our farmers and will not talk to Farmer Wade on Billboard Battalion? We want to see that interview. What is going on? Get into them. It's here or now, right now. And I'll just finish by saying we're going to run a protest in Canberra this coming Sunday, the 23rd of November, 2025, at 12 midday out in front of Parliament House about the Environmental Protection Agency bill, because this has to be stopped. And I know this is last minute notification, but anybody who can get there to wave the flag and give us a bit of support, we'll be speaking about this stuff. So, you know, if they get this stuff over the line, then they come for you and your family and your job or your business or your vehicle or your house, don't complain about it then, because it's here and now. So thanks very much to Grant. You've given us a good amount of time in the middle of your harvest time or that kind of thing there, mate. So I just wanted to say a very, very big thank you, and the work that you're doing and your team, your crew, you're just doing a fantastic job there. So hopefully we can win this war, and might see you again in the very, very near future, Grant.
Yep. No, thanks, Wade. We might lose the narrative, but we'll win the war.
All right. Thanks a lot, Grant. Catch up with you a bit later, mate.
Thank you. Ciao.